Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and welcome back to another Monday. Hopefully you had an amazing weekend. Joining me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. I have a bit of a riddle that's kind of a detective figure it out.
Set it up. I've been killing these things.
Oh, you have.
Mm-hmm.
Truly you have. So let's see what you got, Detective Damus. A man was shot in the heart. Nobody tries to save him, and it doesn't kill him. What happened?
Do we have lifelines? Do I get one phone call? Was he shot in the heart with love? Like an arrow from a little fat babies?
You mean Cupid?
The churros or whatever? Yeah, the Cupids.
The churros. No. Because this is Halloween, not Valentine's.
That's, yeah.
You give up?
Because he found out on his wedding night that his bride cheated on him.
That does sound like a Reddit post for
Halloween.
sure. But no.
Okay.
Unless they were all dead.
What?
A man was shot in the heart.
Okay.
Nobody tries to save him, and it doesn't kill him because he was already dead.
Oh, what a macabre joke.
It's I don't know who would go that far, but this is where it comes back to Reddit drama.
We must make sure that the vampires are dead. Good riddle. I never would have gotten that.
You know, and it's crazy because you got the ice and poison one, and I for sure thought that would stump you.
This one got me. So, for new listeners out there, I will give you a quick rundown of what we do here on this channel. Voyse scours Reddit for stories that are interesting, funny, and dramatic, and we give our viewpoints on them. And we look forward to hearing yours, even if they don't align with ours.
It's actually really exciting to see the different viewpoints that are out there on the same type of scenario.
Agreed. Well, my lovely Voyse.
Oh, I think you turned into a vampire.
Dama Voss. It looks like we have a new shout out to make.
We do. Welcome to the Tea Club, Ava Schwitt.
Ava.
The worst Wally impression, but I love it.
It elicits that. Every time I hear Ava, for the rest of my life, ever since I watched that movie, that's how I hear it when it comes in.
I am absolutely in love with that movie.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've watched it. Well, let us get on to the tea. And not the stories quite yet. The actual tea. And I have a fun little rhyme for it.
Oh.
Double, double, brew and steep. Black tea's warmth, a potion deep. Chai's embrace with cream so fine. A Halloween sip, both spooky and divine.
That was clean.
Thank you.
What? I'm impressed.
I'm impressed with me too.
Oh, that's a 10 out of 10. What?
So I doubled the chai. I thought it would get too strong, so I actually added a heavy type cream to kind of peter back how strong it is. That way, you'd get that nice embrace throughout the holidays.
Seriously, that's a wild drink.
Perfect. Very simple. It really is just black tea and chai and double it. Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for agreeing with my mom that it's kind of pathetic my wife can't cook? I, 28 male, have been married to my wife, 31 female, for about a year. Overall, things are great, but one thing that's been bugging me is that my wife doesn't know how to cook. At all. I've always been the one to handle meals, which I was fine with in the beginning because I enjoy cooking. But over time, it started to wear on me, especially when I come home after a long day at work and still have to cook dinner while she relaxes. She refuses to cook and claims there is nothing wrong with not being able to cook. It's been an ongoing issue between us. I have been trying to teach her, but she is really bad at it. Many conversations about this. The other night, my mom, 56 female, came over for dinner. As usual, I was in the kitchen preparing everything, and my wife was sitting with my mom. At one point, my mom offered to help, and I asked if she could make the gravy or cut some fruit. My wife was standing around in the kitchen when my mom handed her a knife and asked her to cut some fruit while she handled the gravy. My wife couldn't figure out how to hold it properly and ended up making a mess. My mom watched her fail to cut the fruit and then blurted out, "It's honestly kind of pathetic that you don't even know how to cut a piece of fruit at your age." She then went behind her and started to guide her how to cut stuff like you do with a kid. My wife kind of shrugged and finished cutting her fruit with my mom guiding her. Dinner happens and I noticed my wife was not happy the whole night. My mom left and she was pissed I didn't defend her, that I embarrassed her by letting it happen. We got into an argument and I told her that it is pathetic she can't even cut fruit. She is literally older than me and can't hold a knife properly. She told me that is not the point and I needed to defend her, and it's not her fault she is bad at cooking. I pointed out it is, and she is embarrassed because not being able to hold a knife properly is embarrassing for an adult. My wife thinks I am a huge jerk. Am I the a-hole?
What a good story to get us kicked off with.
I will provide a little bit more information in that our OP did say that the fruit that she was trying to cut was strawberries, and apparently she was essentially mushing them and kept the stems on them, so she was trying to cut them with the stems on. Makes for a very interesting picture.
I'm not sure whether or not it's weaponized incompetence that we're playing, or if she truly just doesn't know, but we'll get into the story. She's 31, 32, and he's like 28, I believe.
Correct.
I'm shocked that you've been able to navigate through life without ever having to cut or cook anything by the time you've hit 31 or 32. Now, everyone lives their own lives. I understand maybe not being able to have a kitchen to be able to cook the things that you'd like to can be hard for a lot of folks. So I'm not attacking anyone for that if that's the situations you've had to grow up in and are currently still in. But for the most part, a lot of us have to at least have or you should anyway, have the base skills of cooking down by the time you're in your 30s. I would believe anyway. I know a lot of people almost have a bragging sense of a mentality when it comes to not being able to cook. I'm not sure when that became a flex, but it is definitely a weird one to have.
I agree.
I do believe that should be a life skill you have. It should never be on one person to cook always. That's a bummer anywhere. And we make sure to exercise that even within our relationship.
Oh, definitely. For you and I, it's a back and forth responsibility. And sure, one of us may be better at cooking some things versus others, but it's never just one person trying to hold it up. Now, I will also add to it, because you did bring weaponized incompetence. Redditors did ask our OP, does she help anywhere else?
That's a good question.
Now, our OP did say they actually clean while they cook, and the only thing that apparently she does in the kitchen is just wash her own plate.
Wait a second. So ROP not only cooks dinner, but they clean everything they used to cook.
Correct.
And all his partner does is simply wash her dish.
Correct.
I hate that. We'll go back to us as an example. When one person's cooking, the other one is washing.
And preparing. Or we're both preparing at the same time.
We've always had that understanding, and we had that conversation long ago. So we've made sure to find that balance within our relationship to make sure that at the end of a night, when we're both tired from work, that it feels like we're both putting the same amount of effort into the relationship. Because cooking is definitely effort. But for you to sit there as a partner and say, well, I'm a bad cook, that's the end of it, and you never put forth that effort from that point on, or if you're not contributing in other aspects, which would be washing the dishes or preparing the table or whatever it is that can help that person, you're not putting in the same effort. And I don't care what relationship you're in, you can feel those things. You can definitely hear where the OP is already in a situation where it sounds very exasperated. And this situation came up because this conversation has been lingering in their relationship. However many years this has been going on now. I know they said they've only been married for like a year, right?
Only been married for a year. They never gave more on how long they've been together fully.
I have to believe that they've probably been together for a little bit. And
At least in my mind, 3 years.
You
But
know,
who knows?
give or take, even if it's just a year though, if you've had these conversations and you're not moving forward in a manner where you're both being appreciated
And contributing to each other.
then that's definitely a red flag. So I guess for me, I'm going to say that I don't believe the OP would be the a-hole-ish. I don't like the way the encounter went down. This is something that ROP has been dealing with for a little bit in their relationship. They've talked about it. I understand that we're at, 10 with this. But the way the mother handled it in that situation, basically calling her pathetic in front of her son. And what I'm imagining here is she's forcefully grabbing her daughter-in-law's wrist and forcing her to cut the fruit. There's better ways to have gone about that incident that don't lead to the wife feeling like she's been treated like a child. And then hopefully not feel like she's never going to cook period ever again, right? Because that could be the pushback here. I also understand that sometimes people need to learn lessons and be held accountable for their actions or inactions. I just wish they had gone about it a better way. Work on that communication within the relationship and get down to why it is she doesn't feel like she needs to contribute.
So this is an interesting one. Moderators on Reddit didn't actually put down any kind of verdict, only because they said that there was not enough information. However, based on the comments, there seems to be a consensus that our OP's not the a-hole, because Redditors kept bringing up the fact that the OP's wife wasn't helping anywhere when it came to making a joint dinner. And that was the real problem here. And what a lot of Redditors thought was that it's essentially weaponized incompetence, which is exactly what you brought up, Damas. Now, there were also just as many Redditors that came out and said, look, I have a very different dynamic than what a lot of individuals have, which is they kind of split everything in the half middle. Some say they don't want to deal with the kitchen or cooking at all, but they'll deal with every other chore in the house, laundry included. Others say that on their end, they have it to where one partner takes care of household items, and on their end, they essentially bring in all the bread when it comes to the money. And for the two of them, they're very happy with that sort of arrangement. It's something that they have spoken about.
But see, that's the difference between everyone else and this OP situation. It sounds like they've had these conversations and they've gone nowhere with them.
I think for me, the real big problem here is that our OP's wife cannot take the criticism. So I can understand that for a lot of people, hearing that you're pathetic for not putting in the effort or the want to actually help your partner. For me, you know me, Damas, I enjoy criticism. Nothing makes me more happy than when I get feedback, especially when it comes to the work that I do. If I'm doing a good or a bad job, how I could do better, what can I do to assist those around me? That's just who I am. I don't take things to heart quite like that. Where I know I've encountered a lot of individuals who take it for an insult rather than for a growth moment.
Sure, there's a lot of people that cannot take any form of criticism. I think that's one of the biggest flaws that's going around now. But I will say this, there's also a better way to critique people than sitting there and calling them pathetic at a dinner. You have to have patience and understanding. And like I said, though, maybe it got to this point where she was okay with calling her that because her son had already been telling her.
Or I have to wonder as well if her attitude when the mom was trying to show her something was
that could definitely be an impact.
Essentially a sour sort of reaction.
Like a child being told to do something and they don't want to.
Exactly. Now, there's no way that we can be in that situation to know exactly how it panned out, because now you're hearing it where our OP says that this has been conversations between him and his wife and nothing's gone anywhere. But then on the other end, now somebody else is looking in and they see, okay, someone that I care about is essentially being used, and what's happening here?
Yeah.
Mind you, for me, I wouldn't go so far as to call someone pathetic like that. For me, this type of talk tends to come from an older generation that tends to be more poignant with their words. Not sort of an honest truth, kind of undressing, but more of just an old school, like they see it as it is, and it kind of just gets blurted out before realizing, okay, maybe I should say this in a better manner.
They've got a long way to go if it kind of boiled over to that situation. Because again, you're dealing with the fact that she doesn't want to contribute in any way when it comes to that. I hope that he didn't give us the full explanation of exactly what they do in their relationship. Because who knows, maybe she is the primary breadwinner. Maybe she is cleaning other things. Maybe this is only an isolated incident that we're not getting the full story on, which I can see why we wouldn't have a full a-hole or not, because that is a big chunk of this. If we're saying a lot of households work in this type of manner, where they're splitting up completely different things and not touching the kitchen at all. Every relationship is different, and as long as there's a healthy agreement to share the load, that's all I really care about at the end of the day. Yeah, not only are you dealing with that whole thing, then you're dealing with the fact that that was a bad way to have basically chided her into learning how to do it. No one wants to be taught that way. No, I can't see in my head where my wife is grabbing someone by the wrist and showing them how to cut fruit.
Never.
The next time you see that person, the next interaction between that will not be what you want. I don't think that relationship's going to be very healthy unless people are willing to see where they were wrong.
I agree. I also think that on this, there's just a lot that's happening. I can understand and feel the frustration from our OP. I can definitely see it from a mother's standpoint when it comes to looking in and seeing your potential child essentially being what it would feel like would be used with somebody that doesn't even care. And then I can see it from someone who doesn't think that their stance is wrong and sort of doubles down and no longer wants to grow as a person. I truly understand it from all sides because in one way or another, I think we've all been kind of in those shoes, aside from maybe the mother part. Who knows how young our listeners are out there?
There's a lot of stuff in there. We could be getting into the son and the mother-in-law bullying the wife. We don't know. There's so much that's not in this story.
Let me go ahead and just provide a little edit and an update. So our OP said essentially that they couldn't keep up with all the 2,000 comments, but that essentially one of his previous comments should be able to answer any questions that Redditors may have.
Oh, okay. There's more.
It's one of the reasons why I tried to reiterate some items to you earlier on, but it looks like they actually put it in an edit because individuals kept asking the same questions. And you do that over 2,000 times. Now, from where I can see, there's 6,800 comments.
Woo!
It's probably just a bit too much for our OP to keep up on. But let me give you an update. Our OP said, I definitely think this is weaponized incompetence. I will suggest marriage counseling and cooking classes. If things don't change, I will be out. I will make this very clear. That's all that you can do at that point is just have your boundaries and try and help your relationship grow.
It's not worth being in the relationship where you have to hold the load up completely.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about respecting a sleep schedule. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister and her boyfriend out because they don't respect my sleep schedule? My 34 female sister, 27 female, and her boyfriend, 28 male, moved in with me at the end of August after he was laid off from work. She doesn't make enough to pay rent on her own. The agreement was for them to stay at my apartment through the holidays so they could save up money and he could find a new job. All they'd have to contribute is $500 for rent and food. He has done his part and found a new job, and they have been saving money for their move, which is part of the reason why I feel like I might be the a-hole here. I work graveyard in a small group home for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I cannot sleep at work because I'm the only one there, and I have to be awake in case one of our residents needs me or there's an emergency. I spend my time at work cleaning, doing documentation, changing people's depends, making their meals for the next day, and giving a few of them their showers in the morning. Needless to say, I have to stay awake and alert the entire time I'm there. My sister has a difficult time understanding that I need my place to be reasonably quiet during the day so I can get my sleep. I could understand some normal amount of noise, but she took it over the top, laughing obnoxiously loud, blasting her music or TV in the living room right next to my bedroom, having loud guests over, being very loud in the bathroom and kitchen, etc. I asked very nicely many times to please keep it down, and she always apologized and said okay, but then She started to make it my problem and said I should buy noise-canceling headphones or sleep at my boyfriend's place instead. I finally got upset and told her they're being allowed to stay with me as guests, and if she can't act as such, then they need to find somewhere else to stay. She spent the rest of the day calling all her friends and everyone in our family, telling them how horrible I am for threatening to kick them out. Our parents reached out to me and asked if that was true. I told them the situation and they're on my side and said I should give them the month to figure things out. I called and spoke with her boyfriend, and he felt genuinely bad about the situation and had no idea this was an issue. I try not to bring him into things, but figured since this would affect him, it was only right. Now she's even more furious with me because I went behind her back and called him and manipulated him into being on my side. I told her I will give them until November 1st to figure something out. And he even said it probably wouldn't even be that long as they could go stay with his parents. But my sister is choosing to die on this hill and make me out to be the villain when all I wanted was some quiet so I could function at work. Am I the a-hole for kicking them out? I do feel bad because her boyfriend is doing what he can and is being reasonable. I just don't understand why my sister can't comprehend that I can't sacrifice my sleep and put my livelihood at risk. Thoughts?
That your sister is a child. Actually, that gives children a bad name because there are a lot of children that are very aware and courteous, the way you should be around people who need sleep.
I was very quiet when my mother worked her graveyard shifts as a nurse.
So for your sister at 27 to not understand that you work graveyard and you need your sleep, regardless of what the occupation is a travesty. And the fact that you've had to have that conversation with her more than once sucks. I think you did what you could. Your sister fell in hard times. You took her in. That's pretty big. You only charged them $500 in rent. I'm not certain that there's many people.
And that's for rent and food.
That get to only pay $500 to live wherever they're at. So you gave them a gift. The boyfriend was able to get back on his feet. Now that conversation, maybe I don't call the boyfriend, but I would definitely have a conversation with both of them because they're both renting the room I'm giving them. So I probably have sat them down together and went, hey, look, let's cut the BS now. The noise level is ridiculous. You guys need to figure it out because I also need to keep my job. But that's just because I would have handled it by having the direct conversation with both.
I guess it just depends on how big the fallout was between the sisters at this point.
And you never know. Maybe there could have been a situation where if she had talked to both of them, maybe the message gets lost because of the emotion of the moment. So maybe she's not good at taking critique like we've said.
I mean, for me, if you think about it, her sister went and tried to essentially talk trash to her friends and the family to make our OP look bad.
Maybe it was the best course of action to eliminate the emotional side of that conversation and just have it directly with the boyfriend. So at least he understood, because it sounds like he didn't understand at all.
Sounds like he wasn't even aware of it until it became a problem.
She also took the high road on this one by, I guess she listened to her folks and said, you got till November and then you got to get out. At least she didn't say goodbye because you don't have a lease. She doesn't owe you that room.
In fact, if our OP is a renter, I'm surprised that she's not getting in trouble for having extra people at her place without being added onto the rental agreement.
So OP has gone above and beyond as far as family and helping is concerned. I'm sorry that it sounds like your sister is immature and unable to take accountability for her actions. So OP, you are not the a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. For many Redditors, they said this started becoming a problem when OP's sister stopped being respectful and first went to friends and family to trash talk OP. Additionally, OP did share that apparently their sister only works a part-time job at a grocery store, and the boyfriend had provided most of the income before when he was working construction. I am not hating on how people decide that they want to live their lives. It sounds as if OP's sister has a lot of time on her hands. I can't imagine going into someone else's home and saying, hey, can you go ahead and put me and my partner in a room in your own home. And guess what? I'm going to bring whatever guests I want over. I think that for me is the one step too far. Just getting the blessing of someone helping you to the best of their abilities would make me more respectful than that. And I think for a lot of Redditors, the issue was it felt as if the sister were essentially trying to kick out the OP from their home, especially when it came to the comment of, well, you can go to your boyfriend's place. No.
She's lucky her sister didn't kick her out on the spot after that comment.
That is baffling.
Well, they also sound entitled.
That too.
If you're telling someone else to go sleep over someone else's home while you're living in their home almost rent-free, what do you think you're owed?
$500 a month for, and as I said, it's for rent and for food, right? So our OP is also helping them eat. Now that he's probably got his job, that's probably lessened, but still, I also find it interesting that the OP's sister and the boyfriend essentially do have another place they can go to, which is his parents' place, but she doesn't want that. And I wonder if it's because the boyfriend's parents might hold her accountable for her actions.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. OP sounds like a genuinely good sibling. I'm sorry that your sister was trying to take advantage of you, but I'm happy that you've gotten some perspective on it.
I agree.
Didn't want to follow some pretty easy noise rules. Now you're going to deal with his parents and all of their rules.
That's very true. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about forgetting a wallet. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my friend's share of the bill after she forgot her wallet? A few days ago, I went out to dinner with a group of friends. We had a good time, and at the end of the meal, the bill came. One of my friends, Sarah, suddenly said she had forgotten her wallet at home. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, but it's never been with me directly. She usually does this with other friends. Everyone was pretty quiet, and I could tell they were waiting for someone to offer to cover her. I didn't say anything at first, but when Sarah looked at me, I kind of awkwardly said, "I can't cover you, sorry." She seemed shocked and said she would pay me back tomorrow. I still said I couldn't because I'm not comfortable covering other people's expenses, especially when this has happened before. She got upset, saying she felt embarrassed and that I was making her look bad in front of our friends. One of our other friends ended up paying her share, but the whole mood shifted. Afterward, she also texted me later on saying I was out of line and should have just helped her out since it was only a small amount. Some of my friends are on her side, saying I could have just covered her since she promised to pay me back, while others agree that it's not my responsibility, especially since she's had a history of doing this. Am I the a-hole?
What is this history we talk about? Has she done this before with specifically this OP or the friend group?
Oh, it sounds like with other friends.
Are we saying she has a history of stiffing people?
I don't know if it's about stiffing people, but at least with forgetting the wallet. Who knows if they actually got paid or not?
So that would be the difference for me here. If, honestly, because there are people who forget things all the time. Our son is one of them. He always forgets his wallet or his phone in the house, and I'm constantly having to remind him.
That's very true. But if you know you're going to go out with a bunch of friends and that you're going to have to pay your share.
Sometimes people can be forgetful. I'm not trying to give excuses. What I am saying is, as long as there's a history of, hey, look, can you cover me for here? I'll send you that money the second I get home or when I get access to my stuff. I'll send it to you. If there is a history of that, I don't have a problem with that.
But do you think it's okay for Sarah to go ahead and pinpoint a person to essentially try and strong arm them into paying them?
No, that's not okay. The way that was handled by Sarah was basically peer pressuring. How could you be so
heartless to not help me out in my time of need?
Yeah, or grinchy, like that kind of thing. If you're embarrassed, you probably should have brought your stuff so you could pay for it. I wish they had given us some clarification because that would have helped me on this one. Because as a friend, we've been in spots where we've had someone had to cover something and we paid them like literally that day or that evening when we were able to get access to our whatever it was, funds, wallet, whatever. And we've also done that for friends or family. But I've never been in a situation where I've been given pause to where maybe you don't pay me back Because if I'm in that situation, then obviously we would not cover for someone.
I just have to wonder if they're in a group setting with a bunch of other people and everyone's quiet. What kind of person is Sarah?
I guess there is that too. ROP is not the a-hole for not wanting to volunteer pay for things that she didn't have. End of story. You don't owe anyone a covering. Everyone else is acting very sheepish around this question with specifically this friend. There's a reason you've garnered that type of
reputation.
Yes.
It's almost as if she's a mooch, but you don't know if she's really a mooch. Our OP unfortunately doesn't provide more information on if she stiffs people or if she does or doesn't pay them back. So first, let me go ahead actually and give the consensus.
Okay.
Their consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. Based on how Redditors feel, there's no such thing as repeatedly forgetting your wallet, and everyone being silent at that table was clearly a sign that they all knew what was up. Now, I think that first part of forgetting stuff, you are very right. We have our son and he always forgets his things.
He forgot his cell phone in the car when we're about to catch a flight.
There's such a huge stigma on learning from mistakes. We all focus on that negative feeling rather than try and twist that negative feeling into something that could help us just correct a little niche in who we are. I remember when I was our son's age, I was also very forgetful of a lot of things. I used to lose a lot of things when I was his age, just because I always misplaced it somewhere. And even now, when I think that I know where things are, I still lose things.
Yeah.
And for us, it's become more of a joke. However, when you go ahead and you try and guilt someone because you had a negative feeling, maybe you should make sure that you're holding yourself accountable. It's so difficult. I can 100% say that it is difficult to not be absent-minded, to not deal with or not time manage properly, because I can tell every listener out there, my time management is awful, but I still try.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for the fact that I'm always trying to better myself and to essentially not put the onus on others, which is what I feel Sarah's doing. She's trying to put this guilt and onus. We don't know if she's actually trying to mooch off of others, but this is a flaw in Sarah. It's not a flaw in our OP. You can't keep twisting it around on other people. That's not right. And when you have an entire group of friends around you that gets so quiet you can hear the crickets, you gotta wonder, what kind of impression do you leave on others?
I think at the end, this story really is you are the reputations that you've built for yourself around your friends and your family.
Well, let's go to our last story and let's see what you think about doing a chore for a first time. Today, I fucked up trying to do laundry for the first time. I'm a freshman in college who is on their own for the first time. This happened a few weeks ago when I first got here. I learned how to do laundry a long time ago, but never did since. Parents did the laundry, so I just kind of tried to do what they did from memory. I put my load of laundry into the washer and closed the door. Next, I grabbed the detergent stuff. I knew for large loads you need to pour more. I saw there was a max line, so I started to pour and pour and pour. I was confused why every time I filled it up to the brim, it would just disappear. I went through half of the big bottle before I stopped. When the clock I set up rang, I went back down to put my clothes in the dryer. I saw on the little screen the words "door open." So I opened the door and someone's clothes flung out. Thankfully, I caught most of the clothes flying out and threw them back in. I pressed start, but it rested for 50 minutes. I thought pressing the start button again would reset it, but nope. The time was now set to 99 minutes, and I had no idea how to get it lower again, so I just left it without starting it. By the way, dude, didn't care. Clothes were dried, thankfully. The too long don't read. Poured half of a large container of laundry detergent into a washing machine and set someone's dryer to 99 minutes. So this actually had me laughing. This scenario is very much a slice of life in my mind. Let me go ahead and tell you just a little story about me. This was before you and I even got together, Damas. I had very rarely used a dishwasher. And in this one place that I was renting, he was going to use a dishwasher, and I didn't have those little packets that you're supposed to put the little square sort of, dried, compacted pieces of soap that you're supposed to put inside and then niche the little door closed. So I thought Dawn dish soap is the same thing, right? And I decided that I was going to pour to the max that little door until it closed. And then I walked away and I had started up. When I came back, the floor was covered in suds. I did not realize that those types of soaps were very different. I can tell you, I foolishly was trying to scrape up and put back in the dishwasher all of the suds because I didn't know what to do. And then I started putting it into the sink. It's such a small moment of just learning what you are not supposed to do as an adult, which is please don't ruin your electronics. Please don't ruin any of your appliances. They're expensive, especially when you're renting.
Isn't it fun when you first get out on your own and you take for granted what was done for you? And then you look at things and go, this can't be that hard.
I'm like, dish soap for the dishwasher. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing, by the way. Please do not try that.
I ruined a lot of clothes before I learned how to do things properly when I was younger.
I just think it's one of those funny moments where, wow, you don't know how much you don't know until you're in the middle of it and you're like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now.
Till you're the one quarterbacking. I do get a little giggle thinking about you cartoonishly trying to scoop all the soap. Did you try to put it back into the wash?
I tried it, because the door was opened and I thought if I could just get it off the floor and back into the dishwasher, for whatever magical reason, it was going to go ahead and get back in there.
That's hilarious.
I think I was 18.
Things are much different now.
Very.
What was that, our last story?
That was our last story.
Isn't it fun when we can think back on our younger selves?
Oh, actually go through all of our mistakes and be able to laugh at it.
I'm sure I've got plenty of them, but I can't think of any of them off the top of my head right now. Good story to end off on.
Thank you.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notification for new content. We post regularly on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on Fridays, we have our Feel Good Fridays if you'd like for some more uplifting stories. Also, on our Patreon, we have our Damas After Dark, which for the month of October has paranormal stories.
And those are on Saturdays.
We would also love to thank all of our Patreons for your continued support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of y'all.
Mwah!
And as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
I mean, I thought they were full of mistakes we could learn from.
You learn more from the losses than you do the wins. That's kind of the way life always pans out.
But nobody should ever be ashamed for doing their mistakes.
Yeah, just learn from them.
That's it. The only times that you should be ashamed of is when you try and excuse them away.
Or repeat them constantly. That's when we're not learning.
That's right. That's from Mama Voyse and Papa Damas.
And that's our TED Talk.
Oh, every once in a while, I feel like I go into that mode and I'm just like, you need to step it back, Voyse.
Maybe we interject too much of us into it.
Probably.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
See you on Wednesday.
See you.